Greetings and welcome to Sonic Universe Issue 1. This is where it all begins, folks. The idea behind Sonic Universe is to show off what some characters, namely those from the games, are up to, while Sonic himself has his own adventures in the main book, not unlike the Knuckles spin-off book of the 90s. And like that book, Sonic himself would appear from time to time in this series. Around this time, Archie had two Sonic books in publication, the main Sonic book and the Sonic X comic. With the creation of this book, one of the others had to go, and Sonic X was chosen. Kinda hard to have a spin-off book to the main series if the main series is no longer around. One of the ideas behind this book is we'll get to see stories that not only take place in the main universe, but in other times and places. Which brings us to today's issue. Before we get started, let's recap. Yes, you heard me right, we're doing a recap for a first issue. It's because the book is continuing a storyline that began in the main comic. It all started with a massive brawl between hedgehogs in another dimension. Long story. During the fight, Shadow grabbed Metal Sonic and teleported away using Chaos Control. Thing is, this version of Metal Sonic has a dimensional engine installed, also a long story, so that, plus Shadow's Chaos Control, actually sent the two of them to another universe, which happens to be the Sonic X-verse. This not only confirms Sonic X being part of the Archie Sonic Multiverse, but it also drags Shadow and Metal Sonic into the wackiness. Eventually, the two engaged in another scuffle, and once again, a combination of Chaos Control and Dimensional Engines sent them to another universe. The two appear over a vast ocean, and frankly, Shadow has had enough of this. He tries to convince Metal Sonic not to be a slave to the Doctor. Metal Sonic responds by kicking Shadow into the water and flying off to find this dimension's Robotnik. Fortunately for Shadow, rescue arrives in the form of the Ocean Tornado with Blaze the Cat and Marine the Raccoon on board. Yep, this is Blaze's world. Introductions are made, Shadow explains his current situation, and Marine is being annoying. I don't blame the Ultimate Life Form for his attitude towards her. Earlier, Blaze thought Shadow was related to Sonic. Hey, it could have been worse. She might have thought Shadow was Sonic.
Sonic has stolen the Chaos Emerald.
That's not me!
This leads to Shadow asking Blaze how she knows Sonic. Time for more exposition. Blaze is destined to protect the 7 Soul Emeralds, but they're currently missing. She's been having weird dreams thanks to her connection to them. One such dream has mysterious figures in them. Yeah, you can tell who they are. This led to Blaze journeying to Mobius and her having that fiery encounter with Sonic. Sometime later, Sonic and Tails ended up on Blaze's world, where they encountered Marine, one of Mobius's Chaos Emeralds, and the robot pirate Johnny. Sonic, Tails, Blaze, and Marine teamed up to stop Johnny and his bosses, and that's when Marine hijacks the story, saying she saved the day and built the boat that brought Sonic and Tails home. Oh, and Sonic gave Blaze the Chaos Emerald to help her search for the Soul Emeralds. The Ocean Tornado arrives at Southern Island to find the place a bit smoky. Blaze thinks Captain Whiskers is responsible, but it's actually Metal Sonic, frantically searching for this universe's Dr. Robotnik. Blaze attempts to fulfill her duty to the people, she is a princess after all, by attacking Metal Sonic, only for Metal Sonic to smack her around. Shadow makes another attempt at the old Chaos Control Dimensional Engine teleportation trick. Metal Sonic doesn't give him the chance this time. Marine? Just why? If two powerful individuals can't stop Metal Sonic, what chance do you have? In fact, you are a detriment to the two's efforts to go all out to stop Metal Sonic. Would anyone shed a tear if Metal Sonic were to eviscerate her? Unfortunately, she has Sega plot armor. Shadow tries once more to convince Metal Sonic to grow beyond his program and renounce Dr. Robotnik like he did. Metal Sonic comes to the conclusion that while both are living weapons made to achieve their functions oppose one another. That answer seals Metal Sonic's fate. Blaze and Shadow double team Metal Sonic, and Marine finishes it off. That's all fine and dandy, but without that dimensional engine, Shadow's stuck here. Unless Marine can build him a boat like she did for Sonic and Tails. This leads to Marine confessing that Tails was the one that built the boat. And yes, this leads to the best 2 panels of the issue. It's taking incredible restraint for Shadow not to take action against Marine. If I were Shadow, I would zap Marine with a Chaos Blast. A low level one so that she'd live. A nice wake up call, don't you think? It doesn't come to that as Blaze presents Shadow with the Chaos Emerald. Since she found some Soul Emeralds with it, she doesn't need it anymore. The Soul Emeralds she has will be used to track the others. Besides, she's returning the favor by helping one of Sonic's associates get home. The two part on good terms, and Shadow Chaos controls back to Mobius, specifically G.U.N HQ, where Hope Kinterbor and G.U.N Commander Abraham Tower await. Shadow tells Hope the teleporter needs work, but the mission to get a Chaos Emerald was a success. The issue ends with the commander informing Shadow of another mission that begins tonight. Starting the series with Shadow as the main character is a smart move because he is a very popular Sonic character. Some would say even more popular than Sonic at times. Blaze appearing in this issue is also smart due to her popularity thanks to the Sonic DS games. In fact, I believe this is the first time the two interact in any media, if you do not include Sonic 06 due to it being retconned out of existence, and even then those two never interacted in the game, or any material related to Sonic and the Black Knight because it's not really Shadow and Blaze, and I don't want to think about Sonic and the Secret Rings as party mode. Speaking of games, the issue recounts the events of the backup stories presented in Sonic issues 160, 161, and 180, which are advertisements for Sonic Rush and Sonic Rush Adventure respectively. This issue goes on to provide further details of what happened after issue 180, which is some adaptation of Sonic Rush Adventure. The differences as far as I can tell is Eggman's not present and the heroes have not gathered all the Chaos and Soul Emeralds. Remember, Sonic gave Blaze the Chaos Emerald to aid in her search for the Soul Emeralds. The silhouette figure here is of course Dr. Eggman Nega. From what I've read, the reason Eggman Nega's in Shadow is because of some moratorium on his usage in the comics. Whether it's due to his confusing origins in the games or something else entirely, I'm not really sure. And yes, that's the jeweled scepter he's holding. That boat Tails made to get him and Sonic home? I'm going to assume it's this one. And because it could probably fly, they used it to travel along the cosmic interstate back to Mobius. As for the plot of the issue, I stated earlier that it's a continuation of a story that started in the main book. I do like this meta aspect. Shadow and Metal Sonic teleporting to different universes, represented by going to different comic series. Shadow trying to convince Metal Sonic to break away from Dr. Robotnik serves two functions. 1. It's a reminder that Shadow himself once worked for Robotnik, and he broke away once he knew his true purpose. And 2, and this one's a bit more speculative, I think it's a shout out to the time a Metal Sonic actually turned good, way back in the Heart of a Hedgehog 2-parter. The differences between the two units is that the Metal Sonic that perished in the lava had slightly more independent thought, more than likely due to its power gem, while the Metal Sonic here is so loyal to Robotnik, it will seek out other versions of him to be subservient to. The ending at G.U.N HQ. Hope's appearance here meant that she survived her encounter with Snively back in Sonic 177 and went on to be an engineer for G.U.N. She's also the reason Shadow randomly appeared in Sonic 195. The commander, believe it or not, is a game character, first appearing in Shadow the Hedgehog. He didn't have a name in the game, but here he's known as Abraham Tower. According to Ian Flynn, the name came from an old fan comic he never finished. It's supposed to invoke an idea of authoritative power, with Abraham lending itself to the notion of an influential leader, and Tower being tall, rigid, and standing over all others. Yeah, I'm just going to call him the G.U.N Commander. For the first issue of this spin-off series, I'm giving it an 8. Writer Ian Flynn and artist Tracy Yardley, two of the people who brought fun back into the main Sonic book, were the perfect choices to kick off the spin-off book. Ian has made his hatred of Marine known, and he wants us to feel his frustration. Well, Mr. Flynn, it worked. At least for me. Tracy's art is great as always. The mean-tastic Shadow face alone is worth the issue. Anyway, we'll see what mission Shadow goes on when I tackle issue 2 later this year. Until then, have a good day and be safe. Too bad Metal Sonic's destroyed here. I wonder if it considered being something more. Perhaps a pirate or something. Nah, that'll never happen.